This is an Angénieux T15x8.3. It's a 2/3 inch b4 mount broadcast lens. I have it mounted on my DSR-400 at the moment. Finding exact data on this model is difficult, but there's a few factors that date it to the 1990s. The logo on the lens fits within that time span, and this is a non-HR, HR meaning high resolution, lens, so it should be pre-1998. The nomenclature for broadcast lenses is pretty similar between manufacturers. In this case, the T means it's a 2/3 inch lens. Fujinon uses the letter A instead, and Canon uses J. The 15 is the zoom ratio, and 8.3 is the focal length when zoomed all the way out. The letters at the end denote features of the lens. In this case, the AIF plus means it has this function. It very quickly zooms all the way to the tele end so you can focus, then returns to the previous zoom position. Fujinon also had this feature under the name of quick frame. The 15 times zoom ratio makes this an 8.3 to 124.5 mm lens, with the extender disengaged. The extender is essentially a magnifying glass that can be swung into the optical path of the lens. It lives in this little hump here and doubles the focal length when engaged. That turns this into a 16.6 to 249 mm lens, enabling long telephoto shots such as this. Compared to photo lenses, where f4 is considered normal, this lens boasts a maximum aperture of f1.7, allowing a paper-thin depth of field, especially when zoomed in. Of course, photo lenses are designed for much larger sensors, so in practice the depth of field is similar or deeper than on a photo lens. Using the normal controls is pretty inconvenient when you have the camera mounted on a tripod. You have to reach around to both sides of the camera to operate zoom and focus, at which point you're better off just using the camera on your shoulder. Because of this, virtually all lens manufacturers sell remotes. I happen to have both the zoom and the focus remote for this lens, enabling full tripod or studio use, if you will. Since the lens has servo zoom, there's already a motor inside the hand grip which the remote can use. Focus is manual only, however. Most broadcast lenses don't have autofocus, so we need to provide an external motor. That motor is packaged in a little block like this, that attaches to the lens with a single screw and a locating pin. Power is provided from the lens hand grip, and the remote plugs in here. One nitpick I have with this is that you can turn the focus remote quicker than the motor can keep up. Since the remote remembers its position though, it's not possible to desync the motor from the remote permanently. You'll have noticed by now that the motors on this lens are pretty noisy. I'm not sure what's causing this. It's quite possible my lens just needs lubrication, but it's something I thought I'd mention. Up until now, I've been using the lens on my DSR-400, which is an SD camera, but it also works just fine on my PMW 350, which is a full HD camera. Now, while you can run any B4 mount lens on any B4 mount camera, there are differences in the resolution of the glass. The measurement for this is called modulation transfer function, or MTF for short. There's been endless discussions about this topic. Are SD lenses suitable for HD? Are HD lenses suitable for 4K? Do expensive SD lenses outperform cheap HD lenses? Obviously, the results vary between lenses. Some used better glass and some used what they could just barely get away with. I decided to test it. I did my best to shoot identical scenes with the stock Fujinon XA16x8 lens that comes on the PMW 350 and the Angénieux T15x8.3. I also shot a test chart at different apertures. Here's the chart with both lenses wide open, f1.9 for the XA16 and f1.7 for the T15. They perform pretty similarly in the center, but the T15 loses a lot of resolution around the edges of the image. This improves when stopping both lenses down to f4, although the T15 is still noticeably softer around the edges. At f8 it finally becomes sharp all the way around. Note that the increased noise is because I had to add gain to keep the brightness similar. Finally, here they are stopped all the way down to f16. Both lenses lose a little resolution across the whole image, but get very similar results. Note that the numbers displayed on the charts are not objective. They're heavily dependent on my test environment and thus largely arbitrary, but they can be compared in relation to one another. And that wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed this brief dive into a relatively unknown broadcast lens, and I hope to see you next time.